The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon and welcome to this session of TA Time. My name is Hillary Allen and I'm joined with Sarah Davey.
Hello.
And we are going to be diving right back into building an interface. But before we go through that, we'll do some mechanics. The most important thing is the questions. You'll be interacting with us through here, through the questions. If you have any questions throughout the whole thing, we'll be able to see them and answer them as we go through everything. I also already put up some links in the chat. I'm not sure if anyone's been able to see them or not, but those are the links that are going to be on the next slide that may be helpful for you if you don't get a picture of the next slide. They will give you instructions on where to download the model if you want to follow along. You can build it with us. If you don't have multiple screens, it may be difficult for you to split screens. So you can download the model, and we will be recording these sessions, so you'll be able to follow along later and build the interface as we go along. If you missed the first session, we do have it recorded, and you can view it on our YouTube page here, or you can just go to YouTube and search isee Exchange, the isee Systems, and you'll be able to find our page, and you'll have that there. So without further ado, we're going to dive right back into our model.
And actually, I just want to interject and find out if any of you have questions, if you were here last time and have any questions from then. If you could just let us know now.
So it looks like some people aren't seeing things in the chat. I did just resend them through chat. Hopefully they will pop up for you.
Okay, so where we left off last week was we were on the second page of our interface, and the model that we're adding an interface to is about dairy herd, a dairy and milk production. And so we added the graph, which actually has 2 pages. One of the pages is for cows, showing us the number of cows over 120 months. And the next tab or page of the graph is about overall milk production for that same time period. And we made the graph comparative so we could see the difference between runs. Okay, and so what we need to do now is we wanted to add an annotation, which is basically like a text box, but it will come up only if you press a button. So the icon for an annotation is this little icon. It's the second to the left. It's called, and a pop-up will tell you it's an annotation button. So you click once on that. And the mouse cursor will change to look like the same little bubble. And when you drop it, a text box will open up in which you can actually just start typing the text that you want to have show up. And this button is going to be, we decided to have an instructions button here. So I can just go ahead and start typing the text for instructions, which is just going to say, run the model by pressing the run button. Okay, if I click away, this just looks like a text box. So I need to move it because it's actually I need to double click on this to open the panel to get to all the settings for the annotation button. And this panel for this icon or this object is broken up into the upper section, which is where you can format and control the settings for the actual content of the button or the text box really. And then in the lower half of this panel are the settings for the button that will show up. So right now I have it set to hide the button. But what we want to do is uncheck that so we can see the button, and we're going to put a label on the button, and we're going to call it instructions. We can do other things here like import a picture file, and we can also hide the button if we just want it to automatically show all the time. So now if I click away, I should see the actual button available for me to edit. I'm going to make it bigger so it fits. I can also do things like change the color if I want to, and change the font and the sizing. But right now, in the interest of time, we'll just let that be. And the other option to point out is that you can check this box which says hide when editing. So this will hide the content while I'm editing my model so it doesn't get in my way. So now if I go into, if you remember, we talked about these edit and explore experiment mode buttons. If I click on experiment mode, I can actually test to see what it will look like when I press on it, when I click the button. And I don't really like the size of this or its location, so I'm actually going to go back to edit mode. I'm going to unhide while editing, and I'm going to make this smaller, and I can have it show up so it's not overlapping with other items on the interface. So now I'll go back in and I'll hide it. Okay. The next thing we want to do is show you how to, let's see, do a simulation event. So a simulation event basically is a way for you to set a trigger for something to happen when someone's interacting with your interface, and when someone's interacting with your interface, given a certain set of circumstances, and usually or always it has to do with the value of variables in your model. So I'll open up that panel for you. So if I double click on the interface, there are a bunch of tabs on the bottom, and I'm going to go to the one that has an exclamation point in it. And this is where we will create simulation events. And simulation events can happen when you're even just running a model without an interface. So you can create events in the same place for both, or the same tab on both the model layer and the interface. So what we're going to do is add an event. And we're going to, we decided what we want to do is set up a message when the value of our cows stock starts to drop below 1,890. So I'm going to select cows as our variable. And this is the simulation event dialog that comes up. And this is where I will set the threshold for the number of cows. And we said 1890. And we want this event to pop up when the value of cows goes below. So you can see I have two options: when it either crosses the threshold and gets bigger, or crosses the threshold and gets lower. And then we have options to have it come up only once during the simulation, or every single time it happens, or just once per run. Now we're going to add the action that we want it to do, and we're going to click on Add Action, and we have to indicate whether we're going to be running, we want this to come up when we're running the model from the interface window or from the model window. And in this case, we will select from the interface window. There's some more advanced features here that we probably don't need to go over right now. We can also have the option of indicating that when the action is triggered, the simulation is going to end, but we're not going to use that right now. And what we want to do is have a text box come up, and the text box is just going to say the number of cows is dropping. Oops, that doesn't say that. Okay, so there's just a simple message that we want to add. On top of this, we can switch everything to rich text and play around with more font settings, and we can also, if we wanted to, add an image to come up. We can even add a video, a YouTube link. We can even add a sound if you want. What we're going to do is have the message come up, but we also want to have it do one other thing, which is to navigate to the next page of our model. And the reason we want to do that is because we want the user to be able to play with some of the variables in the model to impact the output. So actually, I don't have a third page set up right yet, so I'm going to have to exit out of here or not do this quite yet. I'm going to come back to this. But you can see now we have an action, a simulation event set up in the interface actions list. So I'll click OK. And now I'm going to add another page to the interface. So I'm going to click on the green plus sign in the lower left to add a page. And now I can go back to my simulation event dialog or panel, which is down here again. And I'm going to select the event in the list and click Edit Selected. I'm going to select it here again and then select Edit Action. And now I can go ahead and navigate, assign my navigation to the button. So it's going to navigate to page 3, or to the event, sorry, not the button. Okay, so if we want to test that, what I cannot do is just go ahead and hit the run button down here, because I don't think simulation events come up unless you actually use a run button on the interface. I knew that used to be true. I don't know if it's still true. But anyway, we're going to go into explore mode, and we're going to restore all devices. So we start with a clean slate. And when I click on the run button, it says, I got the message, what I typed in, and it also has navigated me down to the third page, which is blank. So now we'll go back to the second page. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to page 3 now. Okay. Are there any questions so far?
All right, so now we are on page 3, and as you can see, it looks blank and cold and boring. So we're going to go ahead and very quickly just apply the template again. So this is sort of a refresher from last time. So we're going to click anywhere to get the panel open, the interface panel open, and you'll see down here that there is no template applied to this. So we're just going to go ahead and add template 1. We built this in the first one, and there you can see it adds all the buttons we have. And then if you want to, we can also add the page color back onto that fancy orange we had picked out earlier. So we'll just pick that again.
I think it should have been brown for chocolate milk.
And there you can see we have a more streamlined looking page that goes along with our other pages. All right. And now what we're going to do on page 3 is we're going to try to treat this page as something that they're going to interact with, where they're going to change the settings of the model. So we're going to do a lot of input variables, input devices. But to do that, we also need something that shows them an output device of what's going on with the run. So we're going to show you 2 other output devices, and they're going to be the numeric display and the gauge. And these are just other options you can use besides a graph or a table. So if you notice up here that there are little bars that are separating the toolbar, these kind of help you separate what the tools are used for. So everything in here, those are all output devices. They will show you what's happening in the run. So we're going to select the numeric display, and we're going to drop it anywhere. And you can see it comes up in this fabulous purple color, and we're going to go into it. And for this one, we're just going to say the variable we want to pay attention to is cows. So we click the green plus and select cows, and you can see that it shows right up, and it's kind of small, so we can go ahead and change the font. I think for this it would be valuable to do that since it's so small. So if you go down into the paint roller, you can adjust the font to be something bigger, so you can really see it. You can also adjust the color if you think the purple is not going to work for you. You can adjust it to any color you want to. So that's one thing, and when that runs, that will display the last calculated value during the simulation. The other thing we're going to show you for an output device is the gauge. And the gauge is right here, right next to the numeric display. So we're going to select that, and we're going to plunk it down somewhere, and it automatically comes as a circle. And there's a couple of other options where you can use. You can use a rectangular one. I prefer that one. I think it's just my own preference. I don't think it has anything to do with anything else. I don't think there's any less value to it. So we're going to do cows again with the, just so you can see the difference of how they give the variable information. And then we're going to set the minimum to 1,000 and the maximum to 5,000. And then right here where you see the layout and the appearance, currently it's circular, but I like to turn it to rectangular and then adjust it so you can really get some fun sizes. And so one of the things we had when we did the simulation event was anything that sort of went down below 2,000 head of cattle or cows, we kind of wanted to be aware of that. So you can actually do a color region down here that's valuable. And so we'll say for this one, if we say anything below or above 2,000, it will be red. But what we'll do as it posted, because the red kind of means it's the danger zone, we'll just change that to green. So it means anything above 2,000 is a good color. Anything below that we should get worried about. So now you have your two output devices for this. And now we're going to go into the input devices. And the input devices are all between this line and this line. And the first thing we're going to add is we're going to add a knob. So this looks like the circular horseshoe right here. So we're going to grab that. We're just going to place it down here. And the variable we're going to use for that is desired cow replacement. And I didn't set any minimums or maximums for this one. You can absolutely for any variable you want to. It's usually pretty valuable to do so. The next one we're going to use is a slider. And this, again, the slider is up here. It looks like a zipper and the small icon. We're going to place that right next to it. And again, we're going to double click into this to open this. And the variable I use for that one is initial cows. Initial cows right there. And again, with all of these, they're coming out just the very default colors. You can change the colors on all of these if you want them to stand out more, if you want the font to be bigger or smaller or bold. You can change all of that. You can stylize all of these. Usually the stylizing is always kept underneath the paint roller down here. So you can adjust any of these to be something that works better with your color platform that you're going to be using in your interface. So the last thing we're going to do for an input device is we're going to put numeric input down. So we'll close this to get more space. And we'll grab the input device. And we'll plop it down. And that one will be average lifespan. Let's go back to the wrench. And we'll say, and if you notice, I'm starting to type these out when we're searching for them, and it just helps me find the variable that much faster. So we have average lifespan now. So now all of these are in there, and we can adjust them when we go into experiment mode. But right now we don't have a way to run the model on this page. So a quick way to show you how to do this is copy and paste is your friend. So if you go back to page 2, you can just select all of these buttons, copy them, go to page 3, paste them, and adjust them and put them wherever you want to go. And now they're there. They have all of the actions saved. You don't have to do anything else to set them up. They just copied and pasted from one page to another. And the last thing we're going to be doing on this page is we may want to go back to the previous page, and in this case we will want to go back. So we're going to do a button that will go back to the previous page. And you can do this two different ways. You can copy and paste the next button and then just adjust the action that's going to be doing, or you can drop a new button. And we're just going to drop a new button. So we went up to the toolbar, grab the button. I'm going to put the go back on this corner just to make it a little bit different. And I think I titled this Go Back. And then the action we want it to do, again, if you just navigate down, scroll down to where it says navigate, and navigate to page, and you can either say page 2 or you can say previous page. And for this one, we'll just say previous page. They will navigate to the same area. So now we're done building page 3. We've got all of our inputs, our outputs for this, and then if we go into experiment mode, you can actually run it, and when this runs, the simulation event that we set up will pop up again, but that's fine. We'll just adjust the parameters as they set up. So there it is. So now we can adjust our settings. So we can say, well, our initial cows don't make a lot of sense because we've only got a maximum of 100. So let's go in and change that. So we go in here and we'll say our maximum will be 3,000. And our minimum will be 1,500. That way we're much more in the range of the original value of initial cows. So we can adjust that. Now we go back into experiment mode. And we can adjust this. We can run it. And you can see that the gauge and both the numeric display are actually changing as we run them. We can adjust this. We can run it again. You can see that. Average lifespan, you can put in a number, whatever number you want. And adjust it again, and it adjusts. So this can be valuable. We tend to find that graphs and tables speak a whole lot more than gauges. So Sarah is going to now show you another fun way of playing with variables that you don't necessarily have to use input devices.
Okay, so you may have already heard about Stella Live. And with Stella Live, it allows you to see changes in your model instantaneously. The results will change if you change variables. So we're going to go back up to page 2, and I'm going to show you how to, from the interface, make the interface or the whole model run in live mode, Stella Live mode. So it is a button that I've just added, like all the other buttons. And the action that I'm going to assign in the panel here is called Start Stella Live. And by default, it will give the button a title called Go Live. And so we'll let that be for now. We're running short on time, but this button is like all the other objects where you can change the color and so on and so forth. So once it's also, to really show how this works, I'm also going to put an input device so you can change a value of something live and watch the results happen live. And I'm just going to borrow from Hillary, from the work she did. I'm going to take a copy of this slider that's here and right click and copy it and go back up to the second page and paste it right here. So to show you how this works, I'm going to first go into Explore mode, and I'm going to restore all devices so we can start fresh. And I'm going to run it once, actually. Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. Sorry. Let me go back. I'm just going to, let's see, in Explore mode, I'm going to, here we go. I'm going to click on Go Live. And as you can see, a new run has automatically appeared. And as I change the value for initial cows, you'll see that the run itself is going to change completely. So it's recalculating as I change the value. It recalculates the entire run in just less than a second. And likewise with the number of cows. As I drag this, it will make the change live. So that's one way of letting people see the impact of their inputs immediately. So, do you have any questions?
Yep, we've run out of time for this tutorial. Any questions you have on what we've covered today? We kind of covered a lot rather fast, but it was pretty simple. Again, this will be recorded, so it will be up on our YouTube channel for you to review later. And while you're thinking about questions or typing them in, our next one will be, again, it's always the first Tuesday of the month, so it'll be in November. It'll be November 5th. It's important for the UK. And I think what we're going to do is this. After this, we're going to give a tutorial on how to incorporate storytelling into your interface. And so we will give a brief overview of creating a story and walking you through that. And then quite possibly, if we have time, we'll do a little bit more on partial simulation within storytelling. That's quite fun, and it's sort of a relatively new feature, and it's really valuable when you're telling a story. So any questions on what we've covered so far? And again, if you have questions between now and November, you can always email us. You can email us, or I'm on chat on the web page as well. And so our email or phone call, anything, if you have any questions, comments, or if there's something you'd like to see a little bit more, please feel free to contact us. Looks like we're not seeing very many questions, so we can close down 3 minutes early.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon.